So if you're a coach and you're working with an Enneagram 9, there's a few common challenges that you will run into. The first one is typically when you're coaching an Enneagram 9, if you're working with a company, one of the things that they might say is this person needs a stronger voice. They need to be taking more initiative. They need to be more aggressive. They might actually say, you need to make this person more aggressive, which you really can't do as a coach. And that's one of your challenges. You can't take someone's natural personality when they're sort of a gentle and kind person and make them more aggressive. But what you can do is help an Enneagram 9 become more assertive and more articulate and clear in their messaging. And that's really what leadership wants from them. So another challenge you might find with an Enneagram 9 is that they aren't really clear on their own goals. So when you ask them at the beginning of a coaching engagement what it is that they want out of the engagement, what it is that they think is important to achieve, they might list goals, but those goals might not actually come kind of from them, from their heart, from their own passion. It might actually come from something that they think their bosses want from them. And so they're not going to have that buy-in that you're going to get from someone who has that burning inside to improve or burning to achieve a goal. And so you might take their goals at face value and not really understand that the real goal hasn't ever been spoken. So that's another challenge that you might face if you're coaching an Enneagram 9. So what are some mistakes coaches make when they're working with an Enneagram 9? One of the biggest mistakes is that an Enneagram 9 is very agreeable. And so you tend to have very pleasant conversations. You connect really well. They'll talk about issues and they'll give you the good feedback that they've made incremental progress on issues. But what you might start feeling is that you're not actually getting results. So time goes on, and you may be seeing some incremental successes here and there, but nothing really seems to be changing. And that's because the 9 isn't really dealing with the real issues. They're sort of dealing with surface issues, and they tend to distract themselves and kind of fool themselves into thinking that there aren't problems or there aren't issues where they are. So as a coach, you really have to dig to find out what is going on with a 9, and you have to dig in a way that feels safe to the 9, because if you start digging in a way that feels threatening or feels like it's going to be really uncomfortable, then the 9's going to push back. And they often have a very passive aggressive way of pushing back. So they'll be very agreeable and they'll agree with you that they want to work on something, but then something will happen and everything seems very legitimately, but in a very pleasant way. You're not going to feel like you're making progress. So the thing to understand as a coach is that you may have to work a little bit harder to discover what a 9 really wants and to kind of connect to their inner passion. But once you do that, there's a lot of difference that you can make. So if you're coaching an Enneagram 9, what are the most productive things that you can work on to develop their leadership? And the most productive thing you typically can work on is helping a 9 find their voice. And doing that, a lot of times it helps to do values work to start with, because values work is naturally self-reflective, and it's naturally self-reflective in a positive way. So it doesn't feel threatening. It doesn't feel like you're digging into really ugly inner conflicts, which they don't want to have to experience. So you're not digging into dark places when you do values work, you're digging into positive places when you do values work. But what values work will do is little by little, and it might take several iterations, but little by little, it will get you to what's really important to a 9. And once you can get to that connection, then you have what you need to help that 9 have a stronger voice. So then the next thing you have to do with someone that you're working with that's an Enneagram 9 is help them find their voice, help them articulate what they want. That always starts with clarity in your head. What is it that they really want? But then the next step is, okay, how do you talk about what you want? And for an Enneagram 9, it's almost like you have to find direct and kind, a kind way to be direct, a pleasant way to be direct. So sometimes I use scripts a lot. This is how you can say something that really matters to you, but in a way where it's not going to cause ripples, it's not going to cause storms. People are actually going to really like hearing what you have to say. And so then it's a matter of practice. The Enneagram 9 needs to be clear on what it is that they want to say. They want to practice saying it and seeing that people are actually growing from that, actually receiving that and making something positive out of it. And as they have those positive experiences of articulating what matters to them, articulating their own clarity, finding their own voice and voicing it, and getting positive results, that's the place where a 9 will actually transform.